Since I'm here on the bridge and I'm unlikely to get a ride, sunglasses here, I want to talk about this topic that somebody supplied me with on accident. You know who you are. Actually, two people supplied me with this, but it was resonant. And the topic is a recurrent one as well, and the topic is lying. Lying. Liar. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Right? Liar, liar. Movies have been made about it. It props up the truth movement. Yeah? It's a very important concept. Just like criminals prop up the criminal justice system. So, what happened is I made that video about my confession, which was a lie. And at the same time, within the same week, I had two other people do the same thing to me under different circumstances. And I just started thinking about it, and I was thinking, like, say you're playing a practical joke on somebody and you tell them a big story, right? You just make some utter bullshit up, but you also told it in a very convincing fashion, right? So you make up a pile of horse shit in a very convincing fashion, and you leave it on your friend's doorstep or whoever, right? Now, I think it comes down to a matter of time. I think that's the important factor. Because, again, like I've said before, speaking is inherently involving some level of manipulation / distortion. So when you say somebody's lying, you're saying somebody is speaking. And you see, like, what I just did there is I used sarcasm at a certain level, right? Like, I use sarcasm. Sarcasm is lying, right? Like, for instance, I could say, you could call me an idiot. And I'd say, oh, I'm an idiot. Huh? I'm an idiot, huh? Or you could say, I am an idiot. I really am. And you could be being sarcastic. Yeah? Sarcasm is just, it's a component of the English language. It's a very common one, especially for people who are frustrated in general. They tend to use a lot of sarcasm. And I don't know how you would classify that particular lie, but perhaps as I don't know how you would classify that. You'd call it sarcasm. I guess you could say you're jokingly telling a non-truth for effect. So you're not being serious, right? And sarcasm is just one form. It's one form of displaying meaning in the English language. And so I mean, there are also what are called white lies, which are lies that you tell to protect somebody. I mean, a classic example is parents telling their children that their little brother is arriving by stork later in the evening, or something like that, you know? Like, our whole entire society is founded and built and sustained by lies. And this is also a very well-known bastion of the truth movement. Like I said, again, they need lies in order to know the truth. This is just duality. And then another example is words that have multiple meanings, like bear, bear. There are some words in the English language that have 5 different meanings. And if somebody wasn't an English adept, then they might be interpreted as lying because somebody didn't know all the different variations of the words. And then on top of that, outside of same spelled or same sounded words having different meanings, there are also different intonations of the same exact word, same spelling, that mean something completely different. Like that video that I posted recently with that Ehor shared with me about ass, and the dude saying it was the most complicated word in the English language. That's a very good example of that. Okay, so back to the original premise. I am getting somewhere here. Okay, so say you're telling a tall tale to your friend in order to get something across to them. You're not just doing it out of malice to make them like shiver in their boots or something, right? Like, or to make them hate you, or to be a liar. You know, whatever these things are, you're not doing it necessarily for these blatantly obvious reasons. Maybe you're doing it for something other than that, right? But you wait a certain amount of time in between when you tell this tall tale and you let your friend know that you're full of shit, right? So the duration has a difference, or has affects your performance as a proper liar, or in getting your point across effectively without losing said friend, or you know, whatever might happen as a result of that. Maybe they're just pissed at you for 2 weeks. But, and I have to carry this to drastic measures. I have to carry this into the far edges of polarity so I can make my point. But what if you tell your friend a story, and I can even relate this with an actual story, right? When I was a kid, probably a 12-year-old, so I was probably at the height of my childhood evil. And I wasn't the evilest child ever, but, you know, we were a mild form of Lord of the Flies. We weren't actually killing each other, but as far as the level of venom that was getting passed back and forth, it was very extreme. And we're not like that, you know, exactly anymore. We've mellowed out and become complacent adults at this point, but when I was younger, I would do mean things sometimes, actual mean things. And one of these things that I did was, we were on a camping trip. I may have told this story on here, I'm not sure. Sorry if I did. We were on a camping trip with like 5 of us and my dad. We used to go on these camping trips every summer. And you know, I tended to get bored on these camping trips because after a while of sitting in nature, and this was before I you know, learned of all the techno evils, and that, you know, to save your soul you got to go and sit in nature and God will come pick you up and bring you back to heaven. This was before I knew that, all that stuff. So after a while of being in nature, after having been exposed to the joys of society, I got bored of it, and I would want to, you know, play or fuck around or whatever. So we're a couple days, 3-4 days into this camping trip, and for some reason we had phones, like somebody had a cell phone. I have no idea why. This was like even before cell phones were really a thing, but I had this idea to, all by myself. I didn't consult with the siblings or my dad whether this was a good idea. I just did it. And it involved me calling my mom and faking that I had fallen off a cliff and that I was dying. And complete with sound effects, you know, breaking voice, all this very effective tall tales was I capable of. And my mom completely, you know, I don't know if a mom didn't completely like buy it with her kid actually like sounding like that, then maybe she's not, you know, that's what, of course a mom, if I was like crying basically, and not crying, but I was putting on a very good show, and mom's probably watching this, so sorry mom. But anyway, I did that, and it was a big lie, and that lie didn't even have any purpose whatsoever. That was me playing it like a prank, but I played it in a fashion that was kind of incorrect, because where a brother or somebody could have handled that and they probably wouldn't care if I was dying anyway as much, my mom got very worried in like 2 seconds. She started crying, and I kept carrying on after that for a while, and it was very bad. And then eventually, it wasn't too long. I don't think I'm like this just heinous person, but I did it for a decent bit after she started getting upset, and then I started feeling bad, and I told her I was just joking. You know, in hindsight, it was a horrible thing to do, like just bad. But like I said, it was a Lord of the Flies environment. That's just what kids grow up in. I don't think parents can even avoid that necessarily. That's just how it is. These hierarchies form naturally, and there are natural power struggles that happen. And so that happened, right? Now, again, back to my original point. As I said, I was going to try to paint a drastic polarity situation. I could have gotten myself into the boy crying wolf, the boy crying wolf scenario, and something. My mom could have had a heart attack or something, you know. Maybe she was driving, and when I called her and I didn't know, and she literally like freaked out and drove off a cliff because I stunned her so much. You know what I'm saying? Luckily that didn't happen, but it could have happened theoretically, and as a result of me telling a big lie, which is a big traumatic lie, which is of course the inherent, the root of that story, The Boy Who Cried Wolf, and generally speaking, crying wolf is not a good thing. Although, I mean, I'm sure it has its uses, but really only in like modern psychological warfare would something like that have an actual use, other than being an ignorant child that didn't know the repercussions of your lying behavior. So, I guess it goes back to intent. The intent of the person who's weaving this tale, and how they behave afterward, after things have settled down, so long as nothing too horrible happened from it. And I'm gonna also tie this, and this is getting kind of long, but I'm still on the bridge, so I still have permission to talk. I'm gonna tie this into that book, The Dosadi Experiment, because in that book, you should read the book. If you, Levette said I should read that book because she was trying to make a point that she was trying to draw a relevancy from this life, draw an analogy or something from this particular Earth realm to the planet of Dosadi, and I got that, and that's good and stuff. But once I started just more appreciating the style of the author that was writing this book, because there's so much depth in how he developed these various functions of society, and it almost made me sad. Like, it almost made me sad in contrasting it with this society, because they're lacking in that subtle mastery that's required on the planet of Dosadi, even not just the outside world, that there's actually, they were far more masterful than the other outside world once they got out. Which, if this were the Dosadi experiment, then we should be seeing this masterful, subtle nuances going on between factions. And maybe, since it's the upside down Dosadi experiment, maybe that's what it actually is, and it's how each side can just act in the most ignorant fashion and make the biggest fool of themselves while still attaining their goals. Maybe that's what this is more like. I don't know. But yeah, it made me lonely, like, for an existence where that level of subtle appreciation of each other's ability to bullshit and ability to conceal emotions, ability to conceal true intent, and all of this is a form of lying, but depending on your definition of truth, at some point lying has developed a very bad connotation because of whatever reason. But the fact is lies are everywhere, including between regular two people, friends, relationships. You know, if everything was the truth, then you'd be blurting out your utmost, like, heartfelt, core felt, genuine thought every second of the day, right? And any individual that seeked power would have you corralled and cornered and set, you know, in a cage before you could blink, because that's how we imprison people, is because of their naivete, right? Or their, as Stephen called it, gullibility. But it's what runs the society. It's telling the truth is not a benefit here. Telling the lie actually is more of a benefit. So to be telling the truth, as somebody said, is in a time of ultimate whatever, is you know the quote I'm trying to say. It's how does it go? Like, telling the truth is, I don't remember how it went. I think you know what I'm talking about, though. So I don't know exactly where I'm going at here, but I appreciate that book in the subtle, like, nuances in how people treat each other, and they understood the core person self that was operating their being, and how that core self put out propaganda here and there, and or simply coldness or whatever. All of it was utilized in order to operate efficiently and attain and achieve goals within their particular realm or planet. And it made me nostalgic. Maybe it's just because I'm outside of any systems very much, so I don't even get an opportunity to play such a hand, but very good book. You guys should read that book. And I'm at the end of the bridge. Look, I'm not telling a lie. See? End of the bridge. So, be nice, tell your lies correctly, and I will see you in the next one.